There's actually too much wrong with this proposal that the company's put in front of us to mention in this video. The list would go on. I'd have to be here for an hour or two.
I have only dealt with managements in the transit field, and I have found them very bullheaded. And I have always found them that they were able to find money the day after the strike, but they could never find money the day before the strike. Where were they hiding it? Why couldn't they drag it out before the strike and avoid the strike and not inconvenience the public?
We continue to negotiate, and Judge Lane may or may not abrogate the agreement. Sure, in most cases he does, but we're into a different time and a different place with the way this bankruptcy's been approached. American entered the bankruptcy with $4 billion in the bank and has over $5 billion in the bank, unlike most companies who go into bankruptcy looking to get financing to find their way through it. This is not a typical Chapter 11 reorganization. The judge may abrogate, but if he does, we'll still have the opportunity to negotiate. What happens if you vote yes is we're going to be locked into another 6-year deal. That 6-year deal locks us into the agreement. However, it doesn't necessarily lock the company into the same agreement. The company is still in bankruptcy, and until it emerges from bankruptcy, has the ability to go back and ask Judge Lane for more relief. So we need to be careful that we don't go into this thinking that this is the only ask that the company is going to make. If we ratify this agreement, there's an opportunity for them to go back in and ask Judge Lane for more relief later on.
Before you do vote, I would like you all to at least just step back and think to yourself, why did I become an aircraft mechanic? Sure, working on aircraft was a large part of it, but the other part, why we went to the airlines and why we make the sacrifices required to work in the airlines, is because we expected good pay and good benefits to go along with the sacrifices we make. If we vote yes on this offer, we'll be giving up any hope of having good pay and good benefits for at least 6 more years. I would urge you to consider the things that they want us to give up in the name of job security. They want us to give up all our work rules, most of our work rules, overtime rules, field trip rules. In addition to that, give up our pension, retiree medical. They also want us to agree to give up job system protection. Now, system protection is basically the only security that we have, and they want us to give that up.
And that we didn't need it, although they were willing to give 95% system protection to the pilots.
It really doesn't make sense, the argument they're telling us that if we want to save our jobs, we have to give up the language that allows us to keep our jobs.
In 70 years, so I think if we equate it out, you got 50 cents a year raise from 1942 till 2011. If you added it up, right, it would probably average out to like 50 cents a year.
You know, that's when I started at 50 cents an hour.
There you go, 50 cents, so you went 50 cents every year. Now you're at that rate.
Now we're going backwards.
Yeah.
I hope we don't get back to the 50 cents an hour.
No. Take care, Al. All the best.
This is probably the worst time for us to accept a deal as bad as this one is. We're on the eve of a true shortage of A&Ps in this country. If you look at the chart, you'll see that the number of certificates being issued for new A&Ps has dropped dramatically. 20 years ago, about 20,000 new A&Ps would come into the market each year. Now it's down to around 5,000. That's a huge drop. Now it took a while for the shortage to actually appear, but it is starting to appear now, because we see where a lot of the MROs are having trouble finding A&Ps to work in their out in their factories. So for us to agree to long-term concessions at this time would be a bad move for us. Just like back in 1995, when we got locked into long-term concessions while the economy soared. We were not able to take advantage of the economy and the rise in the economy. Instead, we were locked into a concessionary deal. we'd be making the same mistake if we did that again now by agreeing to these concessions. Bankruptcy or not, these concessions that they're asking for are too deep. In the words of our economist, they were gross overkill.
Early on, the company made a statement that all their objective here to do was to get 600 more yes votes and push this contract through. Their objective is to get 50% plus one, giving them the maximum benefit for the minimum amount that we would receive as far as union employees. It's simply unfair and unjust. We went into this last week thinking we were going to negotiate with the company and talk about another way of achieving what they want through bankruptcy. What they gave us was last best offer version 2. We weren't able to negotiate anything. They dictated the terms and how the money was going to be provided to us. The money that they're giving us is nothing more than the Me Too clause given to Fleet Service, MCTs, and the rest of the groups under the TWU. It's a shame that the company's approaching this negotiation thinking they can just sway our vote to a yes vote by giving us the same thing they gave the other work groups. An example of that is where they gave the AMTs, who are going to be reduced to OSM, their $5 back and keeping them at their chart rate. They made it sound like they were doing us a favor, reducing that pay wage cut from $10 to $5 an hour, even though it's already contained in our labor agreement. These are the types of traps that we got to be careful we don't fall into. They're charging us approximately $5 million to get something back that we currently have in the labor agreement, and that simply is unfair.
Gary Drummond recently put out a letter to the members saying that those of us who are against accepting this unacceptable offer are trying to get everyone to reject this in the hopes of getting an industry-leading contract. That couldn't be any further from the truth. We're not pushing for an industry-leading contract. We recognize that in bankruptcy, we are at a disadvantage. However, what they're proposing to us is bottom of the industry in every measure, and by a wide margin. Far from looking for industry-leading, if we were looking for industry-leading contract, we would be looking for a $55,000 increase. That's the gap between us and the top of the industry. Now, I'm not going to confine the industry to Americans' latest measurement of the industry. I'm going to confine it to the industry as a whole. Aircraft mechanics, what's the top rate in the industry for aircraft mechanics, and what they have traditionally compared us to in the past. And that would include UPS. When UPS goes to their mechanics and negotiations, they include American Airlines in the comparison. So management compares mechanics from all the airlines, and we should also do the same thing. Now, $55,000, we're not looking for anything close to that. If you look at the other end of the industry, even near the bottom end, the gap between us and United, who's already gone through bankruptcy, is $16,000. That's still a huge gap. Now, this $16,000 figure is not just the wages. It also includes the fact that we get a week's less vacation, we get a week's less sick time, 7 less sick days than most of our peers, and we also have only 5 holidays at half pay, while most of our peers either get 10 holidays at double time or 8 holidays at double time and a half. So, and all of these things put money in your pocket, and all of those things were lagging the industry by a wide margin. So far from an unrealistic expectation that we're looking to come out of bankruptcy with industry-leading terms, we're not. We're looking to come out of bankruptcy with terms that are comparable to our peers. Terms like most of the rest of our co-workers are coming out of bankruptcy. If we look at the rest of our co-workers, none of them are coming out at the bottom of the industry like we are. None of them are coming out with such a huge gap between them and the rest of their peers in the industry. Only aircraft maintenance is being subjected to this proposal that would keep us so far below our peers that it makes it just completely and totally unacceptable.
If you have taken the time to read the full text language, you will find serious deficiencies with this offer. First and foremost is the wage portion, which unfortunately would leave us dead last amongst our competitors. An example, United contract is worth $16,495 per year more for a line AMT than our modified last best offer. That's the equivalent of $7.93 an hour, and United is number 3 from the bottom. They earn around $7 an hour less than Southwest. We also lag some non-union carriers such as Delta, who currently earn $12,000 more than we would, JetBlue by $19,000, and unionized Southwest by a staggering $33,000. Next on the list is the loss of the retiree medical and life insurance. Members who in most cases are living under strict fixed incomes and may not be able to afford spending more for their insurance. This offer fails to make the cut in job security category, as Job Protection Article 42 will be totally eliminated should this offer win a ratification vote. Vacations will also take a hit for maintenance and engineering Title 1 and 2, as accrual will move from 6 to 5 weeks max. Outsourcing will adjust to 35% of the total maintenance spend. Total maintenance spend will be reduced as our fleet becomes modernized, therefore needing less mechanics and support personnel to do that maintenance. Light maintenance outsourcing at 15%, work that nearly all legacy carriers do not outsource. Last but not least is the unnecessary 6-year term of this proposal, which in itself is unacceptable. In short, this offer fails to make the grade with me, and I urge you to carefully consider the vote you are about to cast. It's your choice. I hope you make the right one for your futures and our professions. I will vote no for this offer, and I hope you will do the same. I firmly believe more can be accomplished through further negotiations. Good day.
All the expense of getting your information across is in the hands of big business, is in the hands of the employers. We in the labor movement don't have a chance. We have to have a strong union, and you never get anything without fighting for it.
You'd say the American arbitration.
The changes the company is asking for in Article 1 allow them to outsource 35% of the maintenance. That's the same as what was offered in the last best offer. And last best offer version 2, the only change is that's now in maintenance spend versus maintenance man hours. Still, it's something that we can't keep an eye on. The objective should have been, if we were going to consider outsourcing, to have them tell us exactly what they intended to outsource so we knew what was going to be outsourced, not leaving that door open for percentage-based outsourcing where the management team determines either maintenance spend in this case or maintenance man hours. Along those same lines, the provisions for the 787 are still missing. So when American gets the Boeing 787, we have no language to say who's going to work on it, where this maintenance is going to be done. For the base folks, there's absolutely no guarantee that the work's going to come in-house. On the A320, some of that work may come in-house, but again, if you read the letter that says we're going to do the work, it has so many holes in it, it looks like Swiss cheese. The letter was written in a way that never talks about whether or not the airplane's going to be brought in for main base visits, or if it's going to be on a heavy check system, or if it's going to be outsourced. You got to read these letters for what they say, not what you think they say.
I don't want to rehash, but I would like to reaffirm what my brothers have already said here today in this video regarding an OOVOO. I'm proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with my brothers, and I support my brothers 100%. When I committed to this negotiation process, I made a decision to spend time away from my family. That decision was based on collective bargaining, not collective begging. Once again, we have another bad deal brought before this membership, steamrolled through, a turd sandwich with a little lettuce and tomato on top, but a turd sandwich nonetheless. If this last best offer passes, it will come back to haunt us, just like the 1995 agreement and just like the current 2003 agreement. We cannot watch our careers turn into jobs. We want to have a career and not a job. I would like to address my brothers and sisters who, for whatever reason, did not vote on the company's last best offer in May. Statistically, 18.1% of maintenance and related brothers and sisters and 24.3% of our brothers and sisters in stores did not vote. Normally, an 80% turnout or a 75% turnout is a very good turnout. Brothers, sisters, we need 100%. I've noticed much like a lot of people that are going to watch this video, that some of our brothers and sisters are leaving this company and not waiting for the outcome of this vote. What is very disturbing is these brothers and sisters are some of our best mechanics, some of our best stores personnel, the people who helped build this company. The best of the best are leaving, and they're going to our competitors. It's very disturbing. When I ask my union brothers and sisters, why are you leaving? Plain and simple, they say they have no faith in the people running this company to get us out of this mess that they put us in. Plain and simple.
We're not saying that if we reject this contract and we face abrogation that there are not risks associated with that. We recognize that. But we are saying that the risks of accepting a 10-year deal, which is what this works out to, 4 years that we've already put in plus 6 more years, will probably harder to recover from than any risk that might be associated with abrogation. And that's our opinion. So others have their opinion. But by rejecting the contract last time, we were able to get information that we didn't have the last video that we made and before we voted on the last proposal. Information that if the members would have known that, probably some of them would have also voted no who had voted yes because they did not have that information. One of the things that came out in the courtroom hearings was that American's plan is to take $1.25 billion from its workers not so that it can achieve profitability. Their plan has them making plenty of profits. They wanted $1.25 billion from us so they could make $3 billion a year in profits. $1.75 billion wasn't enough, even though that's more than any other carrier makes right now or has made. Another thing that came out in the court hearings was the fact that American's proposal to its mechanics was over and above what they said they needed. Around $40 million over and above what they said they needed. We are at the bottom of the industry in every measure, unlike most of our co-workers. They wanted this money, they said, because they were just asking for a flat 20% across the groups, whether or not they needed it. We don't think that's fair. We don't think that's equitable. And management didn't follow that same philosophy back in 2003 when they asked us for 25% and got it, and then asked management for much less. At that time, when we asked management why they didn't hit their own up for the same percentage as they hit us, they turned around and said because they were under industry average already. So here we are in bankruptcy, and they're completely forgetting what they told us the last time around.
We've fallen into that trap before with the early opener, and that's in the latest agreement. In 2008, we had an early opener. We went in and started 2 years prior to that to try and negotiate an agreement with this company, and we're still negotiating. The simple fact is the early opener does nothing but put us at the table with no end in sight to getting a ratified agreement. We had a Me Too clause in 1995 with the pilots, and we saw how that worked out. It didn't come to fruition. Now we have a Me Too clause in these negotiations that we were able to get something the pilots achieved through their negotiations, and that potentially could have been because some of us did or didn't ratify. The simple fact is going forward that we don't know if the Me Too clause is going to apply in these areas or how it's going to apply. So banking on the fact that the Me Too clause is going to gain us anything going forward is a short-term way to look at this agreement. On paper, it looks like our wages are going to increase 15% over the term of this agreement. However, that's just based on your basic wage rate. It doesn't include any of the premiums. When you take that into consideration and the amount of time we've been in negotiations, this equates to about a 1.2% pay raise for each year over the life of the agreement. It's simply not enough to cover the cost of the new benefits plan, the fact that you have to fund your 401k, or any of the other substantial changes that the company's making that are going to cost you more money out of pocket so they can keep more money in their pockets.
Voting yes for this last best and final offer, the latest last best and final offer, will not eliminate job security, but it will also push back what we started to try and do in 2008 till at least 2018, basically in giving the company enhanced concessions for at least another 10 years beyond what we agreed to in 2003. And it couldn't come at a worse time. Not a worse time for us, not a worse time for the rest of the mechanics in this industry. U.S. Air mechanics are currently in mediation, trying to get a new contract, trying to restore some of what they lost after 9/11. In addition to U.S. Airways, Southwest's contract becomes amendable in August of this year, and United Airlines mechanics are starting negotiations in September, even though their contract doesn't become amendable until 2013, because the United Airlines wants to merge the two groups and have a settlement merging the two groups by December of this year. So as you can see, if we agree to what the company wants us to agree to, we'll be lowering the standards for the rest of the industry, and the impact will be felt by all mechanics across the industry. Now, as mechanics, we have a responsibility to preserve and enhance our craft, not to drag it down and degrade it every time the company comes across and threatens us. Right now, they're threatening us with the loss of 4,000 jobs versus the loss of 2,000 jobs if we don't agree to these concessions. Well, what else were they going to say? I mean, what other threats could they throw at us? Could they threaten us to say, well, if you don't agree to these concessions, we're going to take away your pension? No, they're taking away our pension. Could they threaten to say, we're going to take away your retiree medical? No, they're taking that as well. They're taking basically everything that we fought for 40 years in this contract. If we vote yes, we won't only be destroying our futures, we'll be destroying the futures of mechanics throughout the industry.
We already saw the company move from 20% to 17% on the ask when they negotiated with the pilots. The simple fact of the matter is that if we make this decision to vote yes on this agreement and the pilots reject theirs, and potentially the flight attendants don't reach an agreement, those two work groups will continue on through the bargaining process with an abrogated agreement. That's if Judge Lane rules that way. If three of us go in without an agreement, it'll look somewhat interesting to the judge that the company was unable to reach an agreement with its three largest labor groups and understanding why the abrogation would take place. At that point, if there's an abrogation, the three unions, if it made sense, would stand together and collectively bargain in their best interest as one versus three independent groups like we have been in the past. I think this would set us up for something unprecedented. The pilots, the flight attendants, and the aircraft mechanics, possibly stores, walking into the company arm in arm saying we want to negotiate an agreement, and if we can't, then we'll continue to work under an abrogated agreement, but look at the level of service that we're dealing with now and think about what the attitudes and the morale of employees will be at that point going forward.
My reason for voting no to the company's last best offer, not TA, is the outsourcing of line maintenance. If this deal goes through, the company wants to outsource CFP checks and maintenance checks at stations where they say they have extended ground time. We would like to accomplish A checks and PS checks by contract maintenance at IED, a station that is under a one-station agreement with our station, which we still have members on recall to the station. No other airline outsources line maintenance. Compensation is another reason. We still have the 1/2 sick day the first day, loss of 1 week vacation, lagging pay rates which affect all DCA due to the high cost of living. Most of the things we have given up, such as system protection, were given in lieu of pay raises, which we will also be losing. I appreciate your support and say vote no.
In 2003, the company asked us to give extreme cuts to our pay and benefits, and we gave that to them. Now they're coming back for the rest of it. They're not asking us to accept cuts to bring us at a level that'll allow them to compete with their peers. They're asking us to give them cuts that'll give them a huge advantage over all their peers. I don't think that was the purpose of bankruptcy or Chapter 11. We have to vote no. What they've offered us is completely unacceptable. We have to vote no regardless of the lies they've given to us, regardless of the so-called experts that don't have to live under this agreement, and regardless of their threats to lay off more and more people. Most of them jobs will disappear anyway, just like in 2003, as new aircraft come on board. We can't stop that. But why should we give them everything they want in addition to the jobs, and we don't even get credit for that? We need to stand up like union men and tell the company enough is enough. We're not giving these concessions. We did offer the company a 3-year deal. We offered the company that they could take our pension and that they could take our retiree medical and that they could also take some of the layoffs. But the company said that wasn't enough. They want to take it all, and they're just being too greedy. Some of our leaders are saying that we're better off to accept this than to allow them to impose. Well, they say that because they don't have to live under it. We do. They want us to cower. Well, maybe they can cower. They've done enough of that. But we're not gonna. We need to tell this company enough is enough. We're not giving any more. This is unacceptable.
The 36-month wage adjustment rate letter that the company put in is a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, it falls far short of what needs to be there. When you add those things back into your overall wage for the year, you're talking about anywhere around $10,000 worth of separation between us and the next competitor. So it's something to consider when they make and put it out there that what they're giving you is something that is of value. It is of value, but it's worth very little when you really do the math and figure out what it means against the industry.
What happened to the Pennsylvania situation? In the Pennsylvania situation, it was the Pennsylvania Railroad, the citadel of big business. They were so used to breaking unions and breaking strikes for 114 years that they thought they'd break us too. We bargained with them for 3 years and 3 months, and we couldn't move them. And after operation of 114 years, we struck them. And after 12 days, they found all the things that they couldn't have found in the 3 years previous to the date of strike. Wouldn't it be good for that, in a nutshell, Congressman, is what happened to the Pennsylvania management.
Congressman? Hi, my name is Steve Gukelberger. I'm the chairman of the store's negotiating team, doing the negotiations for the stock clerks, and we're sitting in with the maintenance crews. I'm with Al Blackman. When I started here 35 years ago, I was introduced to Al. Al had 35 years already. This is a man I look up to tremendously as a union man, as a brother. I just can't tell you enough about Al Blackman. Always came in and joked with me. Took me on my first ride in the right seat, Christmas Day. I'm here to talk to you about the contract and what's out there. Al worked to get us a pension and a retirement medical. That is all going bye-bye now. It breaks his heart and it breaks my heart because I feel that I let everyone down. I will not endorse this at all. My group has been a very good group down there in negotiations, but what the company's asking for is too much to handle. It's too much. This is something that he worked for that now the company's asking back, where now our members can no longer retire with medical. Shame on them. And again, Al, I apologize. Did the best we could. And thank you again for everything you've done for us as a good union man.
Well, the other thing is everybody says everything is a joke to me. You have to take that attitude because it's gotten so that working for this company is a big joke.
Thanks, Al.